Welcome back, viewers. In this video, we are going to discuss about Python decorators. So this is a very useful topic in Python. Everyone should be aware about it, and it gives a very good advantage while writing the Python programs, right? So now, what is meant by Python decorators? So if you want to understand, let's understand in a simple terms. So basically, when we have some functionality already existing and you want to use that functionality, but with some little modification on top of it, right? So you don't want to alter the existing functionality and you want to use it, but you need some modification on top of it. So that is where Python decorators will be helpful. For example, you have let's say division method. So someone has already this division method already written, and let's consider in that functionality, the division functionality, let's say they haven't checked what is the denominator, whether it is a 0 or not. Okay, I'm just taking an example. So someone has already written the division functionality, but division is a more generic, so they have just did the division and they have not checked whether the denominator is 0 or not. So that checking that denominator, okay, that extra functionality is something that we want to add it. So that is where you can use the decorator, which will help you to add this extra functionality without changing the actual function. Okay, or let's take another example. Let's say you want to calculate the time required to execute that function. So how to do that? And it's not something we just wanted to do it for one function. We wanted to do it for any number of functions. So that is where you can just write some kind of a time decorator, which will help us to identify how much time a function taking to execute it, right? So we'll see that in a detail, but before that, we need to understand few things. Okay, so for example, the first thing that we need to understand here is how to return a function. Okay, how to return function object from function. Okay, this is the first thing we need to understand. The second thing that we need to understand is how to assign function object to variable. And then third thing is we need to understand here is how to pass function object as an argument. So these are the three things we need to understand. If we first understand these three things, then writing an decorator would be very easy. So let's understand. Let's say I have a function. I have a hello function, which is just printing hello. So this is a very simple function. So how we usually call this function? Simply we can do hello, and if you just use open close, and we are good. Okay, function is getting called, we are getting the output. So this is a very simple example. So let's say if I do something like this, x is equal to hello, right? So basically what happens for this hello, if I use open close bracket, first this hello function will be called, and then whatever the return this function is doing, that will be assigned to variable x. But now let's say I'm doing something like this. I'm not using open close bracket. So in that case, what happens is the address of this function hello will be assigned to x. And then if I do x open close, now hello function is getting called, right? So what we did, we just assigned a function address to variable x, and then we called the variable, right? So this is how a function can be assigned to the variable, right? So let me write another example. Let me write the hello function again. This is the hello function. And in this function, I'm just doing print hello. And I'm just writing another function, India, right? So this is a simple function, right? And let's say another function I have just is hello world. Okay, and this function is doing just, let's say, hello world. Okay, in this above function as well, let's say instead of having multiple print statement, let's make it more simple. I'm just doing hello India, right? So these are the two functions simply we have. So what we can do simply, if I just call hello function will be get called, and if I just write world function, this will write a hello world. It will call the world function, right? What is other option I have is I can also do something like this. If I pass this function name, okay, something like this. So that means I'm just passing the argument. Okay, I'm just kind of considering this function name as a variable, and that variable we are, let's say, catching it here, and then I'm just doing x open close, right? So the same thing we are doing, right? We are just passing the address of the function to as a function argument here, and then we are catching it in the one variable. It's a kind of a variable assignment, and then we are using x open close, so hello world is getting called, right? So let's execute and see what happens. So if I just run it, you can see we are passing the world, the function name, as an argument that is getting cached here, and then we are calling that function, that is hello world is getting printed first, and then hello India, right? So this is nothing but passing an function as an argument to the your another function, right? So it's a very simple concept, but just we need to try it out and see how it is working. Another thing we can do is we can just have, let's say, function hello, right? And then we can have a nested function also. Okay, let's say function is, let's say, wrapper. Okay, we can have a nested functions as well, where I'm just doing from wrapper. Okay, and then this nested function we can call it from the outer function, so which is hello. So you can just write a wrapper. Okay, that's it. This is my function, right? So now if I just simply call hello, what is happening here is this wrapper function is getting called. So execution first will come here, it will call the function, and then this function will get executed, right? So now what I can do is, okay, the small change, instead of calling this function, I can just do return. Okay, we can return the function. Okay, and then I can just catch that. If you see, if I'm just calling this hello, now this wrapper function is not getting called. Instead, it is returning that inner function address. It is returning that we are catching into the variable x. And now if I just use open close on that variable x, you can see the wrapper function is getting called. Okay, so this is something we call it as in Python as a closure. Okay, that means kind of an inner function we have, right? It's a very simple concept. We are just calling it. Now all these things we can do it in a Python, and this is what used in the Python decorators. So let me just repeat what the Python decorator means. So basically Python decorator is nothing but you can alter the functionality of an existing function dynamically. We can alter the functionality of an existing function dynamically. So let's write one simple Python decorator. So let's consider I have one function def display. Okay, I have one display function, and this function is simply saying that print this function is a decorator test. So this is a simple function, and let's say I want to write a decorator which will just tell me how much time this function is taking time to execute. Write it without modifying anything in this particular function. So how we can do that? Let me first quickly write. I'll just write as a time decorator. Okay, time decorator, and then you can have some wrapper function. I'll just give the wrapper function name again. And what we need to do is basically, I'll just write that. So now we are going to call this display function. Okay, that display function, we need to call it from the wrapper. So we can take that display function as an argument here. Okay, and then, okay, let me just give some different argument name. Let me use it as a func, and then you can just call this as a func from here. Okay, and then we are done. We can just do return wrapper. Okay, and then what I missed here is return wrapper. Oh, sorry, it's a return spelling mistake. Return wrapper. Okay, now I wanted to use a time decorator, so I wanted to calculate the time. What I can do is import. There is one module called time, and what it can do is it can just do start time. How we can get the start time? Time dot time functionality we have, and then once this function called, you can just print time taken for execution. Okay, I can just do time dot time. This will give the current time minus start. That's it. So this is your time decorator. I'll explain again. Now, how this time decorator we can call it as. So basically we wanted to call it a time decorator, and then which function we want to call it as a display. Okay, display. That's it. And this function is returning the wrapper, so I'm just taking it as a variable, and then now I can do X open close. So you can see our display function got called. This function is decorator test, and it is taking the time as a 0.0 because it's a very small function and we are getting executed. Okay, so basically what happens is when we are calling this time decorator, this display function, we are passing it as an argument, and then here we are just simply returning the wrapper function address. Okay, we got the address, and then when we are calling this wrapper function, we already catch this address of the function, and that function we are calling it. Before that we are taking the time. Once this function execution is done, you can simply take the time again and we are done, right? So this is how your wrapper function works. So now usually as an end user, how people will call the function display. Okay, we are not going to call this decorator. So how this execution will happen? Display. And basically to do this 2 steps in Python, we have a way where you have to just use @time decorator. That's it, @time decorator. Now if I just run it, you can see, okay, it is giving some display out error. Let me just see what I missed. Invalid syntax. Why so? Line number 2, time decorator spelling is perfectly fine. Let me check it once again. Time decorator @time decorator. This is perfectly fine. Let me just re-execute this. I don't see any error. Okay, let me check if I have executed this. Let me have a quick look. Otherwise, we might need to def display. This is a simple function. Okay, I think we need to just do it here. Let me try it again. Still error, line 2 display error. Am I missing any indentation, anything else? No, nothing we are missing. Okay, let me just do one thing, restart the kernel, because this is a anaconda and this sometimes happens like this. Surprisingly, this is giving error again. Are we missing anything? Display function, time decorator. Okay, let me use some different names. That might be the reason, because sometimes this is kind of a very generic. Okay, fine. Just give me a second. Okay, got it. What I was missing is basically this decorator. I should call it from the here. I need to specify here and nothing else. Okay, so that's the only change I need to do. So basically, instead of this doing this, what we can do is just use that @time decorator on top of the function definition, right? So now if I do it, and simply if I just call this, you can see our decorator is getting executed, right? So how the call happens, basically, as soon as you call this display function, first time call comes here. Okay, the decorator will be called, decorator will return the inner function. Okay, and while first time calling, we are passing this display function address that will be catched here. Okay, and then it will return that inner function address. Once come back, it will again go back, it will call this wrapper function, okay, where we have already captured this the function, the original function that we want to call. We are taking the time first, call that function. Once we come back, we are just subtracting the time, and we are just showing how much time it takes, right? So now just small change we need to do it here. What if your function has multiple arguments? So if that is the case, we just need to do little modification here. Let me write that. So let's say this function is just taking some argument. Let's say it is taking just name and age. That is something it is taking, right? And now we want to use that as well. So basically what we need to do is, here simply you can just use star args, and then you can use double star kw args. So what change we are doing, and whatever it is coming here, that you can pass it here. Let's say these are variable length arguments, then sorry, those are normal argument, positional argument that will captured in the args. If those are keyword arguments, that will be captured here, right? So let's execute and see if that is happening or not. Right now, I'm just going to pass the positional argument. So what I can do is I can just do args of 0. That is something we want to pass it as a name, and args of 1. That is something I'll pass it as a the age, right? So this is how I'm writing the function. And now while calling the display, simply what I can do is, while calling the function, let's say I'm passing the name as a Rajendra and then age as a 30, right? So if I just run it, you can see the execution is happening. There is no error. Okay, if I would have just printing this name and age, that would be printed here. Okay, so if you just want to write, let me just do the name and age, and let me use the F here. Let's re-execute this, and you can see the name and age got printed, right? So this is how simply we can just use the decorator to check the time. Okay, we have added this as a time decorator. Okay, we are not changing anything while calling the function. Okay, only thing is on top of the function definition, we added this @time decorator. So as and when we call this display function, okay, as and when we call, so this is the first step. Second step will come to here. Okay, so we'll call the decorator, time decorator, along with the function address of this display. So the call will come here. This is a step 3. Then directly we'll come back here, step 4, because this wrapper function won't be called directly. So instead it will return. So this is the 4th step. We'll come back as a 5th step here, and while calling back this wrapper will pass the argument this time, name and age. So this is the sixth step. Okay, then this is 7, this is 8. From here we are actually calling the display function because that is what we captured here. So we'll come back here. That is our step number 9. This is step number 10. Once this execution is done, we'll come back here again. Then that is this step number 11. This is step number 12. And once that is done, we'll come back from where our function got called. That is step number 30. So this is the flow of the execution. Now, good part of the decorator is, now this function will show you, okay, let's just to see how much time it is taking. I'll just do time.sleep. I am just adding some extra sleep, that is, let's say 1 second. And if I just execute now, you can see here now it is just showing some time, right? Now the good part here is we have written the time decorator, and this is a very generic. Any function, now let's say you have thousands of function. Now for all those thousands of function, if you want to check how much time they are taking, simply you just need to use this time decorator. And this will save our lot of time. This will save our lot of time to check which function taking how much time. Now, other benefit is, let's say you want to implement the logging mechanism where you want to add a log for each function where you want to print what is the input argument or what is the return value that function is giving each and every function. For that as well, you can just write one log decorator. Okay, how you can write it? Let's say def log decorator. I'm just adding. Okay, you can give the any function name. I'm just giving it, where you will take the function as an argument, and then in the wrapper function, okay, you can here again you can have any argument. Okay, I'm just doing star args and then double star kw args. Okay, this makes this decorator very generic. And then you can just do print. This is what received. Okay, this is what received for function. Okay, and you can just print args. You can also print kw args if you have received anything. Okay, and you can also print your func dot underscore name. Okay, this is a special attribute which will provide us a name, right? So all this we are calling, let's say f, and then let's say our function, the func function is returning something. Okay, and you can just print. I'm just writing, okay, this is what return. Okay, where you can just return value, you can print it. That's it. This is how your return wrapper, this is how your log decorator will work, right? So now let me just add the, okay, so this is our display function. I'll just copy paste it here. And now this, for the same display function, I'm just adding the log decorator, @log decorator. That's it. So now if I just call the display function, okay, with let's say name as a Rajendra and the age as a 30. So if I just call this function, Okay, what went wrong? Display missing 2 required positional argument. Okay, so from here, while calling, I just need to add that args of 0 and then args of 1. Okay, so let me just re-execute this. Perfect. So you can see here, this is what we received for function Rajendra 30. It is not printing the name. Did I missed anything? Where is my log decorator? So this is my log decorator, and I'm just doing func dot underscore name. But yeah, that's fine. Okay, it returns it. If I just re-execute once again, I got this name args func dot name. Okay, let me just re-execute once again. Okay, so it is not printing the name. I'll check it. Okay, that's not the big deal. So basically, what is received for this function, we got it. What is it is returning, that also we got it. Okay, so returning is none. Right now, this function is not returning anything. That's why we got this none. Now, if we have thousands of functions, for every function, it will simply go, and if you just on every function, if you just go and add it, you should be able to use this decorator every year. Okay, so in a simple term, just to remember, decorator will help us to add a dynamic alteration to your existing functionality. That's it, right? So what we have done, we have just modified the display function behavior. Okay, we have not modified the definition. Okay, we have not modified anything in the definition. Our display function definition is as is, but we can just add some dynamic content. Maybe you can just check the time required for execution. We can add the logging into that function, right? So this is nothing but your Python decorator. So that's it for this video. I hope everyone understood the Python decorators concept. That's it for this video. Thanks everyone.